Start, guys. We're gonna go ahead and start. We got a bunch of people online, so I don't want to hold them up. We got a lot more online than we do normally in here. Nikki, hey, we gotta start. We do have a guest. So we have a gentleman that he is actually getting ready to take his exam. And so he will be proctoring here, and hopefully he will be joining us, but he came in to say hi. So after the meeting, if you all could go over and talk to him, say hi to him so he can get to know you, that would be great. I think it's great that he showed up here today. A lot of new agents just wouldn't. So I asked him to try some for size, and I thought that today would be a good one. I'm gonna have Sandra, you can go ahead and come up here.
Oh, I mean,
or is Susan just
in charge? I just provided bagels.
Oh, okay. So Susan, you said decoration,
Yeah.
and so she.
If Sandra wants to talk the whole time, she's welcome to.
Well, we might ask her a few North Carolina questions since we got her, but we'll let you start, and then I'm going to put you over here so everyone can see you, though. Possibly.
I just emailed you something that if it might be helpful to show it.
Okay.
Or maybe just even email it afterwards if it's too much to show. So.
Let me get you over here so everyone can see you first. There you are. Okay, now you're over there, and I will open up my email.
I can go ahead and start while you're doing that, just so I don't hog up all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. This will sound familiar to at least one person in the room, but others have probably been through the scenario where you're representing a party to the contract, but the other party is indicating that they will breach the contract if under certain circumstances. You're laughing.
Is this the one that of Jimmy Ray's?
Yes.
Yeah, I had it on my list to talk about too.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Well, good. We'll do it.
No, it's good. It's good. It's just great minds think alike. And then Jimmy Ray is here, and he's like, "Can we talk about it?" So it's like topic of discussion. Everybody had this on their brain. Yeah. So I'm going to just tell a quick story real quick, and then let Susan go with this. So Jimmy Ray was in a contract, and the other side.
Listing.
Oh, sorry, we're listing. Very good, thank you. We're listing side, and the buy side actually after the PICRA was handed in but not ratified, had verbally told their agent that they didn't want to move forward. Now there's more to the story. That's just the fast version. And so that's where we're at as Susan is going to talk about this. And then there's more to it when she's done that we're kind of
well, it was ratified before any kind of writing or anything was sent to me.
I got a call
mm-hmm.
from Mr. Dunn
Mm-hmm.
saying, if we do this,
yeah,
then what happens?
Right, but we're gonna hold off on that because I told him the same thing. So we're gonna hold off on that one.
All right,
and let Susan talk, and then we'll add ours in after she's done. Okay, Susan, now you can go.
Yeah, you all know more of the facts than I do. I'm just kind of looking at this like a classroom example. So there's probably a lot more to it fact wise.
Okay.
But then, if you've got a party like this who's indicating that if you don't do X, Y, Z, in this case, replace the roof, then I'm not going to buy this house. And there's no contractual right for them to take that position. So in this case, say the PICRA is already, the time frame for the PICRA is gone. It's been ratified. The repairs have been agreed, or they didn't ask for repairs or whatever it is, and they're coming up with this. So your goal here, and it's still 3 or 4 weeks until closing. There are repairs the seller is going to have to make that are going to cost money. The seller may have to arrange for movers. Do they move out of the house when they're in this uncertain circumstance? So your goal is either to sober up this buyer into performing what they've agreed to perform under the contract, or if they're not going to and they're going to breach the contract, you want to know now, not in 3 or 4 weeks after your client has already moved out of the house and committed to the expense of a bunch of repairs. So how do you go about getting the clarity that you want or that you need, that your client needs? Go ahead.
I'm going to time out here for a second to add a little. So with this, the PICRA didn't have anything to do with the roof on it at all. Didn't have anything on it.
It had some collars.
Pipe collars,
but not to replace the roof. Nothing about that at all.
No.
So, the buyer came back and said, well, I want the roof replaced. And yes,
Quick question, was the roof in like, did it need to be replaced?
No, it's 12.5 years.
Mhm.
Okay,
yeah.
Oh,
Um,
did you find out?
Yes. I
Yeah,
went back
yeah,
and
he did
previous
find out.
listings.
So the client is just adamant about this roof. Now, here's the thing. Now, this is where we can talk about what we did. So we made sure, the reason it's ratified is because we had Jimmy Ray not make any corrections whatsoever, right, to the PICRA, ratify it, send it back, right? We agreed to everything on it, move forward. So they're bound at that point. The buyer is still going on and on about this roof. So here's where we're at, because we could just go to closing and act like nothing, right? And then go after the buyer after. But here's the issue. The seller, we have a contractor that Jimmy Ray has, made this, I don't want to say deal, but made this compromise with, that he would get paid at closing to do all these other repairs, which we're gonna say are $3,000. To do $3,000 worth of repairs that they have and to get paid at closing. So if we did that, there's a chance that he wouldn't get paid because the sellers didn't have the money to pay. That's why we were doing it at closing. So we kind of had to push a little bit to say, okay, we need to know, are they truly going to stick to their guns? Now, while this is going on, the broker on the other side, who was also the agent, has contacted Jimmy Ray and said, hey, I advise him that if he does this, that he is not in the right, that he could be sued. He advised him of all these things. And the guy basically said he didn't care. So, okay, Susan, you can continue now. I wanted to give that little piece because people had some questions.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good piece to have, because if the seller runs a risk, if they just, like you're talking about, if they just carry on like, well, we're just gonna, do what we're required to do under the contract, and then we hope the buyer will close, then you've got the $3,000 of repair expense and then a possible mechanics lien being filed against the house by the contractor, if the seller doesn't pay it. And so what do you do to try to force, and then you don't want a scenario where the buyer comes back later and says, well, you terminated the contract, but what you're hearing is not what my real position is. So how do you confirm what the real position is? One is that you can either spend money on a lawyer to send a letter to this guy, or you can try to flush it out through your own means by submitting something in writing. And so I've given actually an example. And option 2 is kind of a little bit like what a letter down here under this solutions is kind of a little bit of an outline of what a letter might look like in short, brief summary that we might send on behalf of the seller. Basically saying, we hear that you're not planning on closing unless the seller replaces the roof. As you know, the purchase agreement does not require a new roof. And so you're basically declaring that you're going to breach the contract by your statement that you have to have a new roof. And we are requiring you to, if you go over to the next page, basically we're giving you 2 days to confirm in writing your intention to close. And if you do not come back in 2 days and tell us that you will go ahead and close without the new roof, then we are accepting this as confirmation of your intention to breach the contract. And in that case, we're going to go ahead and put the house back on the market, terminate the contract, put the house back on the market in order to minimize the seller's damages, which is a legal requirement. You can't just sit on your hands and do nothing and let the cost accrue. You have to, actively put the house back on the market. And then also I would notify them in a letter that they're going to remain liable after termination for the seller's damages, which would be things like the expense of any PICRA repairs that they have done. And if they are out of the house already, like the carrying cost of the house, the mortgage interest, the taxes, insurance, utilities, and the listing commission, as well as attorney's fees. And sometimes a letter like that will sober up a buyer. I don't know that it would have in this case or not, but sometimes it will. Alternative, go ahead.
Sorry, I have a question at this point. If the buyer's agent wrote me a letter, email,
Okay.
and he said in no uncertain terms, he will not close on this property. He has told him that.
Okay.
Is that sufficient to go forward with default?
I mean, it probably is, as long as the buyer's agent is really speaking for the buyer and really conveying, and if they weren't really conveying, it's likely that it is okay because it's certainly not in the buyer's agent's financial interest for this to fall apart. So I don't think he would be mistaken, about what his client is intending to do. Yeah. So, I mean, you could.
We have that. I'm
Yeah,
just
you've
saying.
got that. Yeah, I mean, it's unlikely there would be a division between the buyer and their agent where the agent would, the buyer would say, well, I never said that. I'm not really in breach of contract. I was going to go forward. Yeah, I think that's doubtful. So, and you could, I mean, the other alternative, if your client doesn't want to pay for a lawyer, in your termination notice, basically you could just more spell out the default. And so, and maybe even give them a day or two to withdraw their breach and go forward.
And actually, the buyer's agent copied us on the email he sent with our release document that Austin recommended we send.
Okay. Okay.
And he copied us on that letter to his client, explaining fully his liabilities and
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
just so that we understand where we're sitting and his client,
Yeah.
so that the agent's butt is covered by making sure he says, here's what you're putting out there.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, and it's good to think about it if you end up being on the other side of the scenario. I mean, as a lawyer, we wouldn't be able to, for example, copy the other party on a communication, but I don't know that there's any ethical prohibition for you all to do that. Where it would be wrong for the buyer's agent to have done that.
Yeah, I don't think there's no confidential information in there. It's just the
Yeah.
obvious explanation of what situation
Right.
you're.
Right.
The only thing I would ask him to do is send us the reply so that we have that as well, since he's willing to do that.
Yeah.
Now, if it was us on the other side, I would advise our clients to get an attorney and we would not be doing this.
Yeah.
I would not be speaking for the client. If this is the case and they just said, no, then you're gonna need to get an attorney, and that's what I would advise the other side. is
And he
that-
actually
Yeah,
did
get
say that he would keep me posted on any response, and I've not heard.
Very nice, very nice.
Well, it sounds like you've covered it very thoroughly, and thankfully with the help of the buyer's agent.
Yeah, no, he's being very forthright through that
Yeah.
whole thing.
Yeah.
But my sellers are very interested in getting it back on the market.
I think so. Yeah, it sounds like you've got enough of a paper trail to put it on the market without any fear that this buyer is going to come back and decide, oh, I've had second thoughts, now I want to perform, and then you're under contract with two people.
I was
So,
gonna say, so how do we prevent being under contract with two
You-
people in that
So
situation?
you can do a unilateral termination, right? But I'm saying wait just to see what we get back and how we do it, and then we can kind of talk about that later on with Austin. and
So
Susan.
if we don't send a termination, then, and we just send a release, then it's still an issue for him. But if we send a termination, does that relinquish his responsibilities to us in the release for default?
yeah, I mean, if you're, as your managers have told you, a release is a contractual document, it's a mutual agreement. So just submitting a release by itself doesn't cancel a contract. I mean, you could try to argue the language you write in there is a termination, but and especially in a case like this, you need to terminate if they're not willing to sign the release. The problem with the release for your client, if they planned to ever sue this guy, is they're basically waiving their right to do so by submitting the release. Now, if they feel like, and if based on what you can see about the market, they're going to be okay putting it back on the market. They'll get a good price, and the roof doesn't really need to be replaced. Then maybe you don't need to reserve the right to sue. But if you submit a release and the buyer signs off on it, basically the only remedies you get against that buyer are what are contained in that mutual release. Now, the agent's commission rights are reserved. So
We're trying to get the it's a $5,000 EMD, so we're trying to get
Yeah.
our clients as an EMD, which then they wouldn't want to move forward with any.
Right.
sure, that would more than cover their repairs and everything.
Being
Yeah.
for our schedule, that's all.
Yeah, and if it doesn't work, then you terminate and then you can fight over the deposit later. I mean, no one likes to fight over the deposit because the rain contract requires you to go through mediation before filing suit. And then, of course, there's the cost and expense and time of filing suit. So, yeah, if you can avoid having to go through that.
I mean, and I'll make this brief.
Yeah, you're okay.
So if my sellers just say, okay, screw it, we'll put it back on the market and that 5K can stay in escrow until the cows come home. Is that possible? Or he'll never see that 5K if we don't sign off on it?
Yeah, I mean, what would have to happen is if there's a dispute over the 5K, as your managers, I'm sure, told you, whoever's holding it, and in some cases it's us, in some cases it's a real estate brokerage or a title and escrow company or something. If we know of a dispute, we can opt to send a notice out to the parties. But if we're feeling like there's going to be a conflict over the disposition, we are allowed to interplead that money into the court, or we can just wait for one of the parties to file a suit to get the court to order the disposition of the deposit. But yeah, the escrow holder is not going to want to take a risk when they know there's a dispute brewing on the deposit. So I don't think it'd be foolish for somebody the escrow holder just to give the buyer back the money.
Well, it's you guys anyway, so this case is not gonna happen.
Oh, okay.
It's not them.
Oh, they
it's
didn't know it?
Keith's
Oh, Keith didn't have it with,
Keith's brokerages.
yeah, but the actual
Yeah,
brokerages.
he's
Oh,
holding
dear lordy, B.
Yeah.
We'll keep an eye
He's
on
going to
that.
he'll want to be careful, I'm sure. So,
Being very careful and
Yeah.
so I appreciate everything he's done.
Mm,
So I should just be waiting at this point, then we're gonna wait out the week and see if we got a response and
Yeah.
then we deal with it maybe next week in terms of terminating and moving.
Yeah,
forward.
because I want to talk to Austin and Susan about language if we do send the termination, to make sure that EMD is not,
Forfeit.
yeah, yeah. So definitely, but I'd give it a week. I will say that, putting it back on the market now is still okay. You would just have to send the termination if we ended up getting an actual offer that's accepted, then we'd have to send it a little bit earlier than next week. So if your clients don't want to wait, we could still do that.
Well, I can tell you they don't, but I mean, in terms of their legal rights and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
all that, whatever's most prudent for them.
Yeah.
Is what they'll want to do in the end, but I mean, they're just anxious to get their money and buy
Yeah.
a new house in Albuquerque.
Yeah, so I would go ahead and put it back on the market,
Oh.
for them. And then if between now and next week, when we make the decision on the termination, if that does go under contract, we'll just have to send that termination and we'll make sure we send it before we ratify.
Okay.
Yeah, and this language that I put down here for the proposed termination may need to be tweaked because I'll ask Austin if you all get to the point of needing to do that, we can tweak this language to be more specific to your scenario.
Great.
Okay. And then the other option, and that I don't think this is the case here, but sometimes, okay, the appraisal's in, is there enough value in the property where you could actually increase the price where it might cover the cost of a new roof? Is there anything else they'd be willing to give up in order
Well,
to get the roof?
Price 25K, but it comped at 400. And we've lowered the price 25K, so the agreement was 375.
Yeah.
And I believe it would appraise at 400. Because that was 30 grand lower than comps that were in better condition in terms of updating. So I believe we're in good spot, but
I think the guy just wants out.
well, and the agent asked him, said, listen, this is just your way to get out.
Mhm.
And he said, no, I'll buy the house, but I ain't buying it without a new roof.
Have they ordered the appraisal?
No.
That's default right there.
Yeah, they had 3 days from the end of the PICRA ratification.
Wow,
Yep.
good, thank
You're
you,
welcome.
thank you.
Get that man a wine bottle.
He should be on the slide coming up.
Yeah, right, put him up on the
Yeah,
side.
put him on the
They're
slide.
in default in so many ways, it's crazy.
Get that man a wine bottle.
Just absolutely crazy,
Finally got
absolutely
one.
crazy.
Very interesting.
Yep. The only way they could even possibly get out of it is trying to find a way to saying they couldn't finance the home. I mean, that would be it, but they would have had to turn that in a certain amount of period too, which they've already
Still in
passed.
default.
Yeah, that's what I said, which is already passed. So.
I
but they have-
wondered if-
they have-
And maybe the lenders or you all have an idea on this. If the buyer thinks there's a problem with the roof, I mean, is there a way that the buyer could actually get that information to the appraiser, or is there is there no possibility of the Thank you, Jordan. Is there no possibility of
Show up at the
Show-
end.
They can show the inspection, they can send the home inspection to the lender.
If they're
And-
smart enough.
And the lender can then
It
put it
doesn't
in
have-
front of the
Mhm.
underwriter, but there's nothing on there beyond
Uh-uh.
pipe
Mhm.
collars that would make me think the
Yeah.
roof.
I mean,
has
there
an
might
issue.
The
have
only
been a-
thing they could do would be show up, at the appraisal and try to
If
convince.
they knew when it was.
Right, and try to convince the appraiser, but our client would never allow that and they would be trespassing. But, that would be the only thing they would do. And like I said, the home inspection, everything else shows that it's fine. So the chances of that happening, there's still a chance, right? But the chances of that happening would be slim to none. That would be the only way, Susan, that they could convince the appraiser.
Well, I
Um,
just, guess I'm interested, as everybody would be, in keeping my sellers out of jeopardy. With any negative situation that might come up if we move into putting it back on the market.
Jordan said, don't forget to tell them to govern themselves accordingly.
Hey, Jimmy, like, did the buyer specify what is wrong with the roof that they have a problem with?
Nope, actually, the only roof items on the paper were, collars
Right.
And
and
clear some
ceiling.
debris.
Yeah.
and sealing the flashing a
Mhm.
little bit,
I mean, that's
Yeah,
standard roof.
and they agree to do that.
but
That'd be my next question to them is like, what is your problem with the roof? Why are you so stuck on this roof? Like,
well, the agent said that his friend is, the buyer's friend is a contractor, was telling him that he wasn't sure why he was in his ear.
Yeah.
But he was believing him over the inspector he paid. So, it's,
And he picked the inspector. It wasn't
Right.
the home
Well, I
inspector,
mean,
the
well, at
buyer
that
did.
point, I mean, they can't
Maybe
just
get a
get a
home
third
warranty
party.
that covers
Like,
the
that's,
roof.
so, I've had situations like that with.
There-
Give them a home warranty that covers the roof.
this
There-
guy is one of those people that,
Oh,
we call it a knucklehead in my neighborhood.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter what you say,
Yeah.
he's done.
right.
And his way or the highway.
Yeah, he dug in
And
his
so
heels.
I want a
He's
new
done.
roof or I'm not buying.
I told Jerry Ray, I said, this is, you hate to say it, but this is a blessing in disguise that they didn't have to go through the rest of this contract because hopefully they'll be able to get something very quickly and it'll be a blessing on the next person that comes in to ratify as opposed to having to go through this. It's already starting here. Like I can only imagine going through, how many times that he's going to try to stonewall to get whatever.
Yeah,
And then
there's
in the
no
end, you
HOA.
really have wasted a lot of time and money and,
An extra $5,000 to your sellers ain't bad either.
right?
That AMD's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, but I don't think they're gonna spend money to sue this person for the.
No.
$5,000.
No, but again, because we've now got Jed's extra input on the fact that they're in additional default for not having ordered the appraisal within the 3 days of the ratification of the PICRA, you've got a double whammy and a strongly worded letter from your client's attorney to the brokerage
Mhm.
indicating that they should
Well,
govern
the-
themselves accordingly with the release of the earnest
The-
money to the
The
seller.
broker agent on the other side is also the owner of the brokerage, so
Yeah,
he's got it
So-
all.
so he's really tiptoeing.
And he's making sure that he
dotting
does
his
not.
I's.
Yeah.
And we've known him for quite some time, so he's making sure that he does not have any connection with any default or negative.
Yeah,
So that money is probably coming back to the seller.
well, that
I'm
would be
hoping.
good sooner than later, but I
Yeah.
just don't I wanna make sure that we're
Yeah.
covered.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Austin said, if we do it, it might take a little while, but hopefully we can make that happen. It was a
Right?
crazy one. It was a crazy
Yeah, it is.
one, for sure. Susan, did you have anything else?
I didn't. I mean, one thing I did want to mention about roofs, and now that you're telling me it's his friend contractor, this is probably not the reason, but I know someone recently who got a letter from her insurance company stating that if she didn't replace her 15-year-old roof, that they would drop her. So I wasn't sure if the motivation had come from the insurer. That was one thing, but I guess it's not based on what you're telling me. Another thing I wanted to mention, someone had mentioned, getting a home warranty that covers the roof. And I don't know if any of the home warranty folks are there today, but I think the coverage on the roof is very limited dollar figure wise, but I'm not entirely sure. But that's
I mean,
just,
there-
go
There may
ahead.
be a water stain board or something in the attic. There might be a water from a previous whatever. But in terms of the roof, and I contacted the agent who listed it in 17 and said that was a recent renewal on the roof. And he said 2012, farthest out would be 2012 on that roof.
Right.
So it's half life right
Right.
now. So it's just,
But I mean, she does make a good point about that because we all know with the insurance and how that's going. I think that contractor could have used that, Susan, actually. To
Maybe.
say, hey, just so you know, I've done X amount of roofs that the insurance companies are saying, that they have to replace it, you know?
But that contractor didn't inspect the house.
Correct, correct. But I'm just saying that could be what, she's right on that portion. That could be what they're saying, which would
Sales
scare,
pitch. Yeah.
yeah, which would scare the guy. But I mean, once he got it, they would have it, like, they wouldn't say, I'm not renewing you next month. It would be next renewal period. So you have a year, you know?
But
Yeah,
also, the
right.
contractor has not seen,
Mhm.
has not inspected the roof.
Right.
He just
Yeah.
wants a job.
No, I don't think he wants to build a
Maybe.
new house.
Right. Yeah, it's just a little crazy.
Well, thank you for your time. Thank you.
All right.
Jordan says, I just had a closing get delayed because the insurance, the buyers originally said they would cancel the policy within 30 days if the roof wasn't replaced yet, because because the insurance wasn't in place yet.
Hmm.
So, I mean, it is happening. I mean, roofs in my neighborhood were going up left, right. I thankfully was putting a new roof on anyway. Back a couple years ago, 2 years ago, maybe it was, I think, Manish, right? 2.5 years ago, I was putting one on. That's when it all started. And if you guys remember, Greg Holston came in here and told us about it before it happened, right? Which is what made me, I'm like, hey, listen, Greg, being the Geico guru that he is a wealth of knowledge in a lot of things, stocks and investments and insurance. I mean, he really is on it. And if he says, the town, I'm like, okay, I'm doing it now then, so that I don't have to worry about it. And sure enough, there's been 7 houses in my neighborhood now. After I had mine within that year, they got their roof replaced. There's been more this year too. So it is happening, but that's good that Jordan just said that though, because just make sure that your insurance is firm, because if not, that could happen. And they say it was delayed to get a new roof on. Jordan, in that case, were you a buyer or a seller? In that case, Drew, you were a seller. Did the seller agree to have a roof put on in that situation?
Hey, sorry, I figured I'd just come on here. No, so what ended up happening is luckily they were with Goosehead. So they were just able to find another broker, the
Yeah.
buyers were, who would accept the insurance, like the roof the way it was, because there's nothing wrong with it. It was just older.
Yeah. And what Greg said was, which is sad that it's happening, but what he said is it's such a high risk now that there's insurance companies, they don't want to add more clients on. They don't want more policies
Yeah.
in certain areas. And so they're just saying this, and then they're going to they're finding another insurance company, which is sad. I mean, so I am glad he told us. It was scary that day. I remember David, he was like, that was some scary stuff. And I was like, yeah, but it's happening, and it did, and it is, and it's continuing. So it's been a heck of a whirlwind for the insurance portion. We don't have anybody in here. Usually they're here. I don't know where they're at. I was gonna say we could hear from Evertree too, but they're not in here. I just looked up and realized. All right, Susan, you said you didn't have anything else?
I don't, other than just to answer, if the home warranty rep is there to answer the question about the cap on the coverage. If your alternative was to offer a home warranty that would cover the roof, is there a monetary cap on roof under the warranty? I believe there is, but I don't know what it is.
Yeah, there usually is.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with HVAC, any large item. There is a cap, and then it's really strict. Like it says you can only do certain things for it to be covered, and certain things have to happen, and it can't be age related or storm related. It has to be something that faulted or was damaged, you know, that you were doing. It's very
Narrow. Yeah. Okay.
But there is on there, but they're usually not very much. So the most I've seen is like $3,000. Even though that is something, but it's not, when you're talking about a whole roof to be replaced, you know, that's expensive. So there's really not a ton. Same with AC units. Always look at the cap, because the AC units, they usually are like 2,500, maybe. Yes.
210 used to offer it before, like, I'm
Yeah.
talking like, this was pre-COVID,
Yeah.
I know, like.
Yeah, they don't do it. They have a cap on it. Yeah, that's who I used to have, because they did that.
Yeah,
210 used to be really, really great compared to everybody else as far as like amounts. Like I got a brand new AC unit with 210 when mine You know, the whole
But
bottom.
lately,
Yeah, and it was like
$8,000.
$8,000 and they covered the whole thing, so, but now they're
They're
back with
more
everyone
strict.
else, yeah, they're back in with everyone else who has a cap. Tina wasn't on here, I was looking over to talk. But she wasn't on here to talk about a chose, I don't know what I know they have a cap, I don't know what it is. For her to talk, but yeah, it's limited, like you said, Susan, very limited.
All right, well, that's all I have unless Sandra has something she wants to chip in.
Oh, we're bringing Sandra up here. It's happening. It's happening. Because we're gonna talk a little bit about North Carolina, even though Chrissy stepped out. So, I know, that's okay. That's all right. We got Tanya here too. So with North Carolina, Sandra, we have had a few different things that we've talked about. Did you want to ask about anything in North Carolina that we talked about at Stump the Broker last time?
If I could remember what we talked about in mine.
Okay, that's okay. So one of the things I remember I emailed you, do you want to go over that?
I mean, it's just like Virginia.
Yeah,
So I mean, the question was whether, if the listing time's out, but you're already under contract, is the contract then void? No, it's the same as in Virginia, the contract will trump that listing time.
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what the issue, and really for both, like she said, North Carolina and Virginia, we had someone who was saying that they were just not going to sign something or do something and
Well,
let the
no, it
listing
was
run out.
that everything was good to go under contract. The buyer was ready, but the seller and their misguided agent
Yeah.
had not put any timeline on the due diligence.
Oh.
It was an open due diligence that was based 30 days after the sale of the home contingency.
Okay.
Well, the home sale contingency had not yet been met, so it was open-ended. The listing was getting ready to expire on October 31st. And the seller said, well, I'm just not gonna relist it and I'm gonna put a tenant in there on November 1st.
Yeah.
And
And he
I
was like, I
assured
just
our
won't do it.
agent that,
Yeah.
no, their buyer was
Right,
absolutely
yes.
covered because the contract trumps the listing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then she was like, well, if they do that, what are we gonna do with the tenants in there?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, you need to make sure that, you keep an eye on it, because if you do see anything like that.
Well,
then we
just,
can do it.
just to put a nice little tidy bow on top of that, the buyer decided they didn't want to work with somebody like that, and since they had not met the home sale contingency, they canceled
Yeah.
the contract.
But if it did continue on, I told her, I said, just keep an eye, tell the buyer to keep an eye if they are moving forward, and if they see any movement of anything, then we need to get the attorneys involved,
Yep,
because
absolutely.
that is just absolutely not okay. Because then you're talking about evictions, and I mean, it's gonna be a heck of a time, right? You're not gonna be able to close and then walk in there and say, hi, how are you? We have a choice, you can leave or just stay here with me for a little
Well,
bit.
and then you
That's
run
not gonna
into
work.
what kind of crazy damages are you gonna run into
Mhm.
when an angry tenant moves
Right.
out
Get
like
Yeah.
taken
that?
down,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
100%. So, I'm glad that we did that, but yeah, so same with Virginia and North Carolina on that. The other thing with North Carolina. So I don't know if you know this or not, but in North Carolina, if you are a Virginia real estate agent and you purchase a property in North Carolina, you're not allowed to, like, you can go over there and do your inspections or whatever, but you're not supposed to even go across the border of North Carolina unless it's for certain. Isn't that crazy? It's actually, yeah. So when I did it was nuts. So when I did my CE and everything with it, it came up and I was like, this is just absolutely crazy. Here's where it gets really squirrely. If you refer somebody in Virginia to a North Carolina agent, you don't have your North Carolina license, you're not supposed to cross the line. I said, what happens if you live there?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
What if you
can't
live
cross
there
the
and you
line?
got your Virginia license, you don't have your North Carolina? That doesn't even make sense. So all I can come up with is, just like in West Virginia, I told you guys, sometimes there's laws written so long ago that things
Yeah.
aren't changed, but it's literally in our CE. It was in our CE. That's how nuts.
What do you mean you can't cross the line?
You can't cross the border into North Carolina.
What do you mean? You can't go to North Carolina?
That's correct.
Or you can't go to Carolina and practice?
No,
No,
go to
you
North Carolina.
can't go there.
That makes it.
It says you need to stay out of the state.
No sense.
That's not
I'm
legal.
gonna have to.
There's no
Google
way
it.
that's.
Yeah, look at the one for the refill.
You can't restrict my travel.
It's because people went down there and gave their opinions about things that they shouldn't have been giving their
Maybe
opinions
we
about.
should put that law.
Still
Okay.
silly.
So you go across the line and they can arrest you for what?
Well, remember,
Another time.
it's not illegal, right? Remember, we talked about that a lot. We don't always say illegal, because illegal is different than you have went against the policy.
Policy versus law.
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the big shit.
that's when I was like, that's illegal. I'm like, nope, cops aren't coming in here to
Cops
arrest
aren't
you.
coming, yeah.
No, it's not illegal. It just goes against policy, or you could be fined, or, you know, whatever the case may be. Like Rain, there was like, that's illegal. I'm like, not illegal. Rain's not gonna send the cops, but they will fine you. I think you'd probably get off better if they sent the cops, because the cops think they were a little bit cuckoo too, but
Yeah.
it's not that. You're just gonna get a fine. But yeah, so kind of crazy.
I had, we just did a pretty interesting one with an estate as the seller. And it's very similar to Virginia, but I like that everything is more publicly available
Right.
in North Carolina. So you can look up all the estate information that's been filed.
Oh yeah, North Carolina wants to know everybody's business,
Yeah.
so it is out there.
Yeah.
It is out there. Yeah, North Carolina's scary at first, but the more you get used to it, you actually learn to like it. And the difference is that in Virginia, they protect the buyer, and in North Carolina, they really try to protect the seller. And that's where the confusion starts again, because we're so used to all the contracts and laws and everything to be for the buyer, whereas in North Carolina, they're really for the seller. And it gets a little bit swirly with wording and verbiage and everything, because you're so used to thinking.
Yeah. And they're not as nice, I've found down in
Unless you're from there or have,
Unless
yeah.
you're from there
Yeah.
and talk to them
That-
very sweetly
Yeah.
and say thank you and please.
we can help you with an accent.
This is-
That would help.
It comes out,
Right?
right? Talking to them. Our corner of North Carolina does it different from the entire rest of North Carolina.
Yeah.
that's true.
And Outer Banks is its own little,
Yeah, that is correct.
Yeah.
It's own flick.
Yeah.
yeah, that was a nice way to say it. Jen Williams, wait, what? Yep, Jen, it's true. It's a little bit crazy. We actually had an agent who, her and her boyfriend had went down, and he was doing new construction. She's gonna be living with him. And they were purchasing new construction. They went in, and she told the contractor that, and the builder, that she was licensed in Virginia, not North Carolina, but hey, they escorted her off the property. Escorted her off, yep, escorted her off the property. She said, I'm the woman in the relationship, and they're like, you're not married to him, you're not on the contract, you're not. Escorted her off the property and asked her to leave, and said, by law, you are not to be here. Do you remember that, Lucy?
Yes.
We got a call and I went, ooh.
Guess you shouldn't have disclosed all that.
Yeah, so sometimes it's
Since
better
you're
to.
not on the contract, you're not a party to the purchase, you just shut up and be there.
Yeah, but they escorted her completely out of the whole construction area. Yeah. It's a little crazy, a little crazy. All right, well, thank you so much, Jones Walker, and like Susan, if you're on there, thank you. Sandra, thank you so much, and thank you for breakfast. There are some bagels out there if you guys want them around with pots. I mean, who else do you know is gonna give you the letter that they're writing to the client for us to see? I think that's great. All right, I do have Cragen, you can go ahead and come up here, you are next.
You didn't have to leave.
I spend so much time. with you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Go ahead.
Cregan's music and video there.
How you doing? How's everybody doing?
Good.
Great.
Awesome. So I have a client that is actually with the roof stuff. They're buying a townhouse. And I guess it's got a slate roof that's like 105 years old or something. And the insurance guy came back and said that it's like $300 and something. It's like twice as much as what I initially had quoted. I only tell you that in the case you're shopping with a buyer. Obviously y'all look at everything, especially the roofs, when you're thinking about putting an offer in to maybe say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, this roof is old. You might want to think about, we may not be able to close this loan potentially because it is an old roof or something along those lines. So that's something to keep in mind. Additionally, in this scenario, the insurance is twice as much as what we originally quoted. Thankfully, this buyer has plenty of room on their debt to income, their DTI. But if you have a client that you know is shopping at the max limit of their DTI and they have an issue like that, it's something to think about and keep in mind, and maybe contact the loan officer and get the loan officer and the
the insurance person all together so they can run a quick quote to see if you're still gonna be inside your window. I do the same thing whenever we have a property where that's on the water, right? Because this could literally make this a no deal if the flood insurance is $400 a month, so. Just keep those things in mind that it is relevant to your people that are buying, and even your sellers too. Let them know if they have a home that has a 100-year-old slate roof, that this may be an issue in selling your home at some point. I don't know how you pose that as your sales tactics, but because obviously you don't want to lose the listing, but it's one of those things that's just upfront and honest is honestly a great way to go about it. Other than that, so I've been working with Chrissy pretty well last day or so. We started a couple weeks ago, but anyway, about some cool classes that we have coming. So we've got locked in with Asking the Underwriter. It's coming up in January. I'm gonna get some social media stuff done with that in the next couple of days. I think it's the third. Is it third Thursday? Third Thursday. That's usually when they are, right? I think it's the third Thursday.
It'll come up on the.
Anyway.
Come up on the calendar.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Ask the Underwriter is my head underwriting manager. He's great. Wink, wink. Sometimes he's a jerk, but no, it's. I say these things as he's got to be hard in the sand because he's the one that's literally the final.
3rd of January.
Yeah, so he's the one that's got the final approval, right? But he's literally the best person to ask because he's gonna be the one that approves this stuff or not. So start getting your questions together, and please, if you're listening online, start getting your questions together for questions that you may want to ask the appraiser. We're gonna do. I think that we can do like a jot form or something, right? That they can kind of fill out.
Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he's only got an hour. He's a very busy guy. He's running a division that's closes hundreds of millions of dollars a month. So I'm very blessed to have him. Is my point with saying all that. Next up, I think in March we have Ute. Yeah, March 27th. Ute's coming back here to Coastal Town
That's gonna be
to
good.
teach us more about the 1031. And with all these classes, feel free to invite other friends from other brokerages too, because that's really the biggest thing that I would love for us to have a packed house with not just Coastal Town. We're definitely going to be planning to do it on Zoom as well. And then we're still working on Ask the Appraiser. They couldn't do May because I was trying to do January, March, May to split it up, but they couldn't do May unfortunately. So we're going to try and work things out either
April and February as well.
We're gonna probably do April or June for them. So anyway, other than that, that's really the cool things we have coming up. The holidays are coming. Rates have been crazy, as y'all already know. They've been up, they've been down, they've been up, they've been down. The biggest thing I can try and say is don't sell rate. Try and get them to understand, can you afford your monthly payment? I say this every time, and I will continue to say it every time when we have such a volatile rate environment, because it is important for people to understand. Don't worry about the rate. You're not paying the rate. That's not your payment. That's not your monthly payment. Worry about what your monthly payment is. Other than that, I know that we always have good questions. Anybody have any questions? Anyone? Jimmy Ray? I know Jimmy Ray's got a good question. No?
What's today's rate, bro?
I'd say probably in the low 7s on a conventional,
Jeez.
probably mid 6s, the low
I need to
6s on a-
refinance this 7 1/4 I have.
Yeah, on a conventional.
Yes.
You missed your window, bud.
It was only
It'll
open
come
10
on.
minutes.
It was, well, 12 minutes, but yeah. It was the big refi boom known as 2024 refi boom. It was about 2.5 weeks. So,
Yeah.
people that were like, oh, I can't wait. I'm gonna wait for the rates to go down. Well, guess what? They went back up. So strike while the iron's hot. The
It'll
old
go back
adage.
down.
But they will go back down, and then guess what? They'll go back up too, because that's what rates do. They go up, they go down. It's hard to catch the perfect spot. And once again, I'll tell you exactly how I would tell my clients. Hey, I need to get out of the 7 1/4 rate. Okay, that's great. When rates were 6 1/4, if it made sense to you to spend that money to refinance, to drop your payment hundreds of dollars a month, then do it. Don't wait to get the bottom barrel because you missed the bottom barrel because you were waiting for the bottom barrel. So that's why I say it's the same type of conversation that we would have with purchases as refis. Is if it makes sense right now, do it. Because guess what? If you refi to 6.25 and then in 2 years from now it goes to 5.5, 5.5, sure, go refinance again, or maybe pull some money out if you want to pull some money out to put in a retirement or do some Bitcoin or crypto or whatever you decide that you want to put some money in. you know, and it makes more sense to do the cash out refinance when the rates are a little bit lower, right? So these are all options for you. Anyone else? Anyone else? I know.
And nothing online, so.
Okay, great.
We're good there. All right, thank you,
Yeah.
Craig, again, thank you so much. All right, we do have Aaron from Evertree. Here he is. Go ahead, Aaron. Aaron,
He needs to unmute.
he is unmuted. Aaron, we can't hear you. We can't even hear that.
That Charlie Brown's.
Can you guys hear me now?
Um,
No?
yeah, we
No?
can, yeah, hold on, let me try to.
No, I'm pretty sure that's his microphone. He's got no like that.
All right. Let's see here.
Turn it up a little bit, yeah. Go ahead. I think your micro was just a little bit lower than what,
Okay.
yeah, I think you're okay now.
All right. Sounds good. So first things first, I'm completely unprepared for this. I'm just gonna be very transparent. This was just thrown on me a moment ago, but I
Oh,
guess
okay.
I mean, I can just tell you guys a little bit about myself and things like that. But I'm gonna be y'all's point of contact over here at Evertree Insurance. We're a brokerage. We represent about 40 different insurance companies now these days. I've been here about 7 years now. I used to work in property restoration, dealing with the claim side of things. So started as a water tech, swimming in mold and sewage water, and kind of worked my way up into doing some, project managing and estimating and things like that. And now ultimately I get to write the insurance policies. So just having that background and seeing things firsthand, when I, sell my policies, I try to make sure people have certain coverages. Just from having that background in the property restoration field. So, but I'm more than happy to be a resource for you guys. Any questions that you may have, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I can send over my contact information to whoever does not have it. But more than happy to just be a resource for you guys and help you out with whatever you need.
All right, thank you so much, Aaron.
Yeah, no problem at all. No problem at all.
All right, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Tina is not on here. Usually she messages me, so I'm not sure, but she wasn't on there. All right, KV Core. So there's still KV Core training that goes out to you guys for you guys to do. We had a lot of people that had some leads that came in from the training that they had. I think it was the week before last. But if you're not on auto for them to automatically put things onto your Facebook, you need to go into the training and learn how to do that. We did it here in person as well, but we did, I don't know, what, 6, 7 classes?
I've done a few.
Yeah. Also, if you go to Tanya's tech classes, she also has times where she talks about KV Core.
Christy does too.
Okay.
She has to. It should be on YouTube.
Okay, yeah, it definitely is on
Mixed in
YouTube.
with some of
Yeah,
the
it definitely is
campuses.
on YouTube, but it's also in KV Core as well. So just make sure that you guys are up to date on that. And then we will be closed for 3 days for Thanksgiving, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we'll be closed, so just make note of that. A lot of places are closed Thursday and Friday. Wednesday, we're gonna try to get everything together so that we can get ready for the end of the year. So we are closed Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, but we're here Monday, Tuesday of that week. If you need anything, and then, oops, there you go. And then for New Year's, we'll close New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, which we always are. I don't know why this is backwards. I'm assuming next is Christmas. Yeah. Christmas, we're closed Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. Sometimes we close the day before if there's not a lot going on, usually like maybe half a day, but we're definitely closed Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. But we'll be here up until then. And then, sorry, I had to turn it up for his thing. On our Facebook group, you can go in and you can vote. And so you can vote for the theme of our award ceremony. And there's options in there. So there's the 80s prom, there's all black theme, and then there's a Tea Party / Bridgerton theme. So that's in March 22nd is the day. You're welcome. We say that lightly, just in case the venue changes on us. So we're in negotiations right now with the venue, but go on to our Facebook page. Not the Coastal Town one, but the Coastal Town family one. The internal one that has our events. Go on there and vote so that you can have a vote into what the theme will be.
I swear to God, I better see everyone with big hair.
I'm out of town.
That's so funny. All right, Lucy. Lucy's love notes is up.
Well, it's funny that you put all that in there because one of my big ticket talks today is to make sure you're getting with your lenders and your closing agents to find out what their holiday schedules are. You're now at the point where you're writing contracts that are going to close the end of December. So you need to know what those expected outages are. So go ahead and get with whoever your lender is, whoever your closing attorney agent is, and get their schedules so that you're not writing a closing for December 30th and they're closing at noon and you think your people are going to be able to come in at 4 o'clock after work. Okay,
Yeah.
because then you've got salty people who think they're getting this closing done before the end of the year for tax purposes or whatever, and you've kind of got a situation on your hands. Because if everybody wants that 11 o'clock closing spot for the last one of the year, only one person gets it. So be prepared, contact your people and get their anticipated closing timelines. And write your contracts accordingly. Govern your contracts accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, I feel like a broken record, but it comes up every single time. If you have an entity, an LLC, an estate, a trust that is in a name other than the signer's name, you know, if it's the Thomasina and Lucy Revocable Trust and Thomasina and Lucy are signing the documents, I'm not going to question it. But if it's the Thomasina and Lucy Revocable Trust and David and Jimmy are signing it, we need documents showing that David and Jimmy are allowed to sign for Lucy and Thomasina. I can't just let that go, whether it's a purchase or a listing. I can't. You've got to have the estate documents, the death certificates, the estate, the LLC documents showing that the person who is signing that piece of paper has the authority to do so. And I'm not approving any documents until that happens. So I'm broken record because it keeps happening. It keeps happening that I have to go chase somebody down for the authorization to sign the documents. Anybody have any questions for me?
Nope. Christy just said, let's go 80s prom. I think everyone's excited.
I am totally out this Thursday. Can't communicate, will be drugged and not compliant.
Definitely
Sounds like a
texting
party.
Right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Sing the Pink Floyd.
Leave up to all hell breaking loose.
Um,
I just answered from her.
Response.
That's
Yeah.
My phone's gonna go to bed or I'll leave it with my husband. So I'm out Thursday, but as far as I know, I don't think I have anything else going on and I will not be in town for the awards party.
I know. Again, it's only third year in a row. Who's counting? Who's counting?
Well, I'm
Who's
sorry.
counting?
I wasn't gonna
Who's
say
counting? Who's
Can
counting?
we okay, you know what?
All right, on the admin's agenda, so
God.
number one, she wants to make sure that everybody is giving information on referrals. Make sure you put in as much as you know into the actual line of what the house address is, because you don't always know the house address when you're given a referral,
Yeah.
unless it's for a listing. But try to make sure you put the buyer's name, seller's name. The referral has the company, so that's pretty easy. We can look it up, but I would still put it in there for looking up just like purposes, you know? If you can get it in there, and then you can always correct it when it comes into the right address and whatnot. But we're having a hard time finding you all when a check comes in, it doesn't have your name and it doesn't have,
Don't y'all want your money?
I mean, I felt like, yeah. But I also keep track of mine. So when my referrals, I'm like, okay, it closed on this day. I call, I tell them congratulations. I make sure when the check goes out, I know when it's coming in, what it's coming from, what it says. And then I tell Caitlin so that she knows. So I'm pretty on top of my referrals. But I know that you guys have a bunch out there that are just kind of like, it's been a while. So if you just put it in there, then she can search for it, which is great.
Brokerman added that new
Yes, they did.
line in there too,
Yep.
that might make it a little easier.
Yeah,
for
they
people to
did.
actually use it.
Yeah, which is nice. Be very nice. The second thing is Caitlin can't do anything after hours, so she can't do anything from home or on weekends because she's paid when she's here. But she also, you guys are calling the office phone. You're like, Caitlin, she's not here. She's not here. So she leaves at 5. She's not here. So she's not gonna get that until the next day. Or if you're calling on a Friday at 6, she's not gonna get that until Monday. But she can't do anything after hours or on weekends. She's home relaxing and trying to rest up. If it's an emergency, please let me know. You guys know how to get a hold of me. You always do. And then, okay. And then the last thing was, whenever you guys are in the conference room or you use anything, just make sure you put your chairs and everything back. She's having to go around and kind of do all of that. And she doesn't really mind, but it's going to get more and more and more, as people start coming in. So
She's gonna start docking everybody's pay.
I don't think she will.
I think she should.
But,
I thought
yeah,
we got
she didn't even put that in there. I
to-
did just because I keep seeing her do it. So, turn the lights off and everything when you leave and whatnot. just so that it's nice for her. And then here is our calendar of events for training. Here we go. I'll go ahead and move this out. Let me see if you can see it. So we do have a lot of stuff coming up.
And speaking of training, we have a event today at Gather, Virginia Beach. We're doing DSCR loans. If anyone wants to learn more about DSCR loans, we're doing it today at 1 p.m. Forgot to mention that.
Yes, I don't know what it is. I
What is
don't
that?
need it.
Right, what's a DSR loan?
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You guys with me right now? Okay. DSCR stands for Debt Service Coverage Ratio. And
How did I not know that?
it's basically like an investor cash flow loan. It's basically, you have a credit score, you got assets, you go find a property, we identify the property, it has to appraise at least 1-to-1 usually. Meaning your mortgage payment 2,000, it's got appraised for 2,000 for your rent schedule.
Okay.
Seriously, I thought you could, no, I thought no.
Loving the graphic.
Do you like the graphic?
Not because I wish one of his.
I genuinely thought we were talking about it. That's why I was like, that's something.
I knew it was that Gather.
Yeah, yeah.
I know a lot of
So we're doing it today at 1 o'clock. I know it's last minute, but. That's, I just stopped the one recently at 25% down. I was like.
All right, here's the production. Round of applause. Everybody who had a closing contract, high five. Great job. Good job. Absolutely. Right? I don't know. And then we have our top agents. So, listing agent, and then we have Gail for transactions, Stacy for volume for closing, and then closing team, Nunesh Nikita Homes, listing team, Nunesh Nikita Homes. And $1 Million Club, Nunesh Nikita Homes, congratulations. And then we had some cappers, I think that was for last time, though, it looks like that was the same as last, I think they must have put that out. Also, happy work anniversary, round of applause. We read happy work anniversary, Stacy. Happy work anniversary, Jeff Chance. Happy work anniversary. We had a few in here, huh? And then happy birthday to Mike, Esther, Darren, Kushbu, Nikita, and Janine. Happy birthday, everybody. All right. So I appreciate all of y'all coming in here for this today. There's a lot of people online too. I appreciate you too for coming on here. I just wanted to say though that you guys are having a magnificent November already, which is great. We're getting a lot of houses under contract. There are a lot of listings going up. I mean,
say surprising amount of listings.
right? I mean, it's just, I did not expect all that for November. I'm assuming after the election, things just calmed down and everything started to pick up, which is great. So round of applause for the office for that, because it's gonna be a great weekend for January, which is usually our low month, right? So it's gonna be very, very good.
I got 2 for December.
What? See, I mean, it's just over and over. I mean, it's just happening.
Put them on the picture.
Well, AI helps out a lot. So, actually, I don't know if I want to say hi or not, but still, I want to close in prayer, being thankful and then praying for you guys. So, Lord, thank you so much for this wonderful office. And we thank you for all of the listings and buyers you have sent our way. It's been a magnificent 2 weeks already for November, and I know there's more to come. We appreciate everything that you send us and give us, and as you know, this business is for you. I appreciate every agent with their patience and their love and understanding for all of us, and for our office, and for the buyers and sellers that they represent, and for their knowledge. It's just amazing. So thank you for all of that, and it's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen, guys. All right, everybody online, I will see you in here. And then everybody here, I will see you once we step out of here, right? The only other thing I want to tell you about is we do have a holiday party in December, and we also have what is the other thing we have? Oh, the online. I already told you about that. So go and vote online. But we do have a holiday party in December, and it is a Wednesday in December, which is the 17th.
18. I thought it was
17th. It was 18th last night. Or is it the 18th?
I'm pretty sure.
Whatever that Wednesday is, 17th or 18th. We're gonna send it out again, but
It's
18th. Okay, Wednesday the 18th. Wednesday the 18th from 4 to 6. We're gonna have our holiday party here. There will be, are you here?
I think I'll be late, but I think I'll
Okay,
be
because
here.
we're gonna decorate houses. And Lucy like puts mansions out, so, but I will tell you this, if you're online, you've stuck in here and you're in this room, you can bring your own decorations for the Christmas. Yes, they can. You can bring them. And I only let them know that in person. That's why it wasn't up here. I'll let you know in person because I'm gonna actually cut this off the video so that they don't know whenever they watch on YouTube either, because that's a little heads up for anybody who wants to do it. You can bring your own stuff in.
You can juge up your house.
All right, guys,
I have
online, have a great week.
Is it a gingerbread?
Mine may have had glowing lights inside it this year, my haunted mansion.
That's so at this point, Caitlin just flips the switch to put it back on the market. Thomasina,
can't do.
Wait a minute, let me,
Huh?
what
Sorry,
do I need to do to get this back on?
I can do it.
have a listing change form filled out with the market being checked and the date you're putting it back on the market. Any other changes you need to make to the listing, have it done at that time. You need to send it out. You need to change the price, anything, all of it goes on that form.
The end date of the listing for me is the 5th of December.
I would change it out to the end of January.
So I can just do that on that form and.
All of it can happen at once, yes. One signature, one